multiple national judo titles, competed in the Youth Olympics at age 16, but then he stopped competing in about 2011. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of the judo is retained. I mean, if I'm honest, you embed it that early, it stays with you for life. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how he puts it to use in the cage.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to commentate a number of Andreas fights in his amateur career, and there's a real strong judo base there. You know, it's one thing having that background, but being able to apply it to a completely different sport like mixed martial arts, where obviously we don't have the gi to deal with. It's not always something that translates easily, but he has been able to work those judo and wrestling style grips and takedowns into his more rounded MMA game. Whether he can continue to do that against high level competitors like Mark Kinsella, that's what we're going to find out today.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know, all the grips are just that little bit different. Everything's a little bit slipperier. You can roll through positions. You know, it doesn't stop at the point you score that ippon or that successful throw. But look, it's incredible clinch strength, and it gives you a very gritty type of grappling. I think, you know, some MMA guys just haven't come up against versus a very high-level judoka.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is 3 rounds in the Cage Warriors welterweight division contest. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist whose professional record is currently standing at 1 fight, 1 loss. He stands 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighed in at 170 pounds. Fighting out of Liverpool, England, Mark Kinsella. And his opponent fighting out of the red corner, a judoka with a professional record of 2 wins and no losses. Standing 5 feet 10 inches tall, he weighed in at 170.5 pounds. Fighting out of Manchester, England by way of Larnaca, Cyprus, Andreas, the Judo Kid, Tricomitis. And when the action begins, the referee in charge, Rich Mitchell.
Referee Rich Mitchell about to get this one underway. 3 5-minute rounds if they need them in the Cage Warriors welterweight division. To kick things off here at Cage Warriors 90. Mark Kinsella in the black, red and white shorts. Andreas Tricomitis in the grey. Kinsella immediately taking sense with the cage here, and Tricomitis dumps his man.
Yeah, he just overcommitted with those strikes up top. You know, Kinsella is a much taller fighter, a good 4 inches taller at 6'2" versus Tricomitis is 5'10", and there you just saw him overextend those arms a little bit upright. Immediately the judoka goes underneath, body locks, and it has good level change from standing.
As you say, Josh, Mark Kinsella often has a little bit of range on his opponents at welterweight, and he has been known to fight with that Diaz brothers style every now and again, with the hands very far out in front of him, just overextending perhaps a little bit. As you say, he's had success keeping people at bay with it, but someone with the speed to get in on the body like Tricomitis is always going to be the kryptonite for that style.
Yeah, Kinsella has done a good job of getting back to guard here. He had to hip escape a fair few times. See Tricomitis keep trying to kill that right leg, constantly sprawl over the top of it. He's gone back to half guard here, and he's going to look to get his hips low, again step over. He does have options to strike.
Kinsella looking to perhaps move his back onto the cage here. It's not going to be the position he wants to spend the majority of this round in, and we've seen Tricomitis in his amateur contest happy to just crush someone against the mat in the cage.
Yeah, that left overhook for Kinsella gave him some options for attacking triangles, those long legs whipping out from that guard. But here he's going to do a good job of posting the hand, getting back to his feet, but he's given up the body lock, and let's see if Tricomitis tries to dump him. There we go, Kataguruma, not in.
Well, Tricomitis personally promised me a fireman's carry at the weigh-ins yesterday.
Yeah, it's interesting, that standing Kataguruma is a throw that's actually banned in modern Olympic and sport judo. But it's very effective as they engage up top.
Oh, big throw there from Tricomitis, and this is exactly where he wants to be.
It was a big Haragoshi, stepped all the way across the hip, and you just saw the upper body strength. Loaded him onto the hip, flipped him over, and it's a strong side control here. Let's see if Kinsella can use the cage. Those long legs generate a huge amount of leverage off the cage surface.
Well, Josh, if there has been a criticism of Tricomitis in the past, it's that he does go with this very high-impact style early on. He's obviously very heavily muscled for 170 pounds, and he has been known to fade in the later stages of the fight. Perhaps Kinsella then playing it safe early on, hoping to get into deep water.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, look, if you can hit those big hip throws with great timing, it doesn't suck that much energy. You know, it really is a question of good biomechanics and good leverage. But if you have to do that bit of extra work to muscle and unwheel the opponent into the right position, you know, it gets tiring. And sometimes just dragging a guy down to the ground can be as effective as flipping them through the air.
Tricomitis training with Ozzy Halloke, UK MMA original.
Put that in.
Still cornering him here tonight.
Now, interestingly, this is one of those positions where Kinsella's huge 6'2" frame is actually a little bit of a hindrance. You know, once the guard is great with these long limbs. Once you get past those long limbs, you know, you shut that space down against the hip, it can be very hard to work them back in to recover your position.
You have to believe Tricomitis would love to get the crucifix from that position and really start going to work on Kinsella. Kinsella looking to recover guard, though.
A bit more here, gents. Come on,
Kinsella's doing a lot of things right at the moment. You know, he's doing a good job of trying to recover. He's getting an elevator hook in. You know, and he is a tough guy. He's not going to, you know, just being out positioned for a little bit is not really going to put him too much on the back foot. Powerful up kicks.
Plenty of great fights to come on our Sport Bible prelims. And then, of course, live around the world from 9 p.m. UK time. BT Sport here in the UK, and of course UFC Fight Pass and our international broadcast partners. The return of Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, Molly McCann versus Bryony Terrell to crown the first ever Cage Warriors women's flyweight champion.
I really like to see Kinsella attack when he gets those closed guard positions back. You know, he tends to use that overhook and he's sitting there a little bit too much. There we go, the legs are getting thrown up. They're just disrespected by Tricomitis. A little bit too loose. Not really playing the grips too well.
Final 20 seconds of the round. And it really has been one-way traffic in terms of who's controlled, where the fight's taken place, and the pace at which the fight's taken place.
Yeah, as time runs out here, this is not really going to be a difficult decision for the judges in this first round. It's going to be a pretty clear 10-9 Tricomitis on the 10-point must system. You know, he executed the better of the grappling, the more controlling of the position. And although Kinsella had a couple of good exchanges, he was generally shut down by the more aggressive Tricomitis. So it's going to be a pretty clear 10-9, I think, in the first round.
He still owes me that fireman's carry, though. Not letting him off the hook for that one. Let's take a look at some of the action from that first round.
There you go.
Beautiful throw there, Josh.
Yeah, huge Harai, had a fantastic underhook, great upper body grip, really loaded him onto the hip.
Just having a bit of end swell and ice on the face and the back of the neck there for Kinsella. Looks like he may have picked up a little lump over that left eye.
Yeah, it's interesting. For as much as he was out-positioned and he was in the bottom position for a lot of the time, he didn't take too much physical damage. You know, Tricomitis was more concerned with controlling him than he was with throwing some ground and pound. And, you know, it's interesting you mentioned the gas tank of Tricomitis, Brad, because he looks a little bit tired as he stands up.
Stay back.
Yeah, as we said, Josh, in that first round, he's carrying a lot of muscle, especially on the upper body. And it takes a lot of oxygen to keep those engines going. Beautiful body lock early and drags his man to the ground.
Yeah, fantastic outside trip from the double unders. Really good change of direction. That's what did it. It was the grip and then the sudden change to put his base over the back foot.
Kinsella immediately more active from the bottom, though. Instantly scoots his hips back, gets his back against the cage, and he's going to get back to his feet.
Yeah, let's see if Tricomitis tries that Kanaguruma that you're hoping for, but right now he doesn't have great head position.
Kinsella looking to trip the judo player there.
Well, there we go. He tries to turn, but just doesn't load it up.
I spoke to Tricomitis yesterday at the weigh-ins, and he was very much looking forward to what he feels is the biggest opportunity of his young career so far, to fight here on Cage Warriors, and the path that may eventually take him on.
A much more wrestling style takedown from Tricomitis that time. Drove through on the double, put the reap in on the outside leg. Again, good top position for him.
And again, it's more of a controlling performance here from Tricomitis. He's not going all out to throw particularly damaging strikes. He's just doing enough to keep that top position.
I mean, it's an interesting posture here, you know. It's not necessarily it's a low, slow and steady controlling passing posture. You know, if he really wanted to do some damage, he'd tuck his leg and he'd sit on Kinsella's leg and start posturing up to throw some bombs. But right now he lets him back to the feet.
Tries to catch Kinsella on the way up, and Kinsella immediately looking a little bit lighter on his toes than Tricomitis, taking the center of the cage, walking him back onto the fence.
I'm a little bit surprised by that, Brad. I mean, you know, you would think he would control the timeout on top, at least for a little bit of this period, but allowing him to stand back up, he's going to do the hard work of getting that entry all over again.
And all of a sudden, there was a little less snap on that entry than we've seen on previous attempts from Tricomitis. Again, looking to trip the leg and take Kinsella to the mat. Settles with pushing him up against the fence.
Yeah, the key with that inside trip is to really change the angle on your opponent and drive the weight over the foot. Wasn't quite able to do it. It's a lot easier if you've got the back of the gi collar you can grab and really drive.
Fingers out of the cage.
You notice here Tricomitis doesn't really look to put his head on inside position. Kinsella, though, does straight away, drives that forehead in, and that frame is going to help Kinsella. Anytime they clinch up.
Nice knee on the break there from Kinsella to end that little flurry. Let's see if the man from Liverpool can get that jab working now.
Yeah, Kinsella keeping his head nice and low. He's bringing that lead shoulder up, and he needs it with a lead right hand like that.
Now Kinsella's got a good jab. Also look for the push kick to the body from Kinsella. He's used that spectacularly well in previous amateur contests.
Some good leg feints from Kinsella. Overcommits a little bit again. Manages to avoid the trip. Definitely starting to shut down the initial takedown entries from Tricomitis now.
But we could find ourselves in a very interesting position here, Josh. If Tricomitis can get another period of control on the ground here after that takedown, he's got 2 rounds on the board, and if Kinsella can't get the finish, all of a sudden it's a lost cause regardless.
It was a very, very clean drop throw from Tricomitis. You know, he stumbled a little bit when he went to his knees, but ultimately he had a good enough grip up top and he was low enough that just dragged his opponent down. You know, we say this quite frequently with judo. If you can attach yourself sufficiently to the other guy and throw yourself, often they don't have a chance but to go with you, and that was a perfect example right there.
Good stuff from Tricomitis, just using those judo fundamentals to great success in the first 2 rounds here in our opening bout of the Cage Warriors 90 Sport Bible Prelims.
Oh, it's a good stiff elbow escape from Kinsella, but rolling back to Turtle. Tricomitis could do some nifty hip work here, but he sort of accepts going back to this left side guard position.
Kinsella desperately trying to get to his feet, and does. Final 30 seconds of the round, and he'll need a big finish to take anything away from this one.
Yeah, let's see if Tricomitis can hit another throw, but
oh, Tricomitis takes the back off the counter to that throw.
It was a really awkward overhook and whizzer. I think Kinsella just getting his left arm in a little bit more danger and a little more stress than he would have liked when Tricomitis spaced out. Looking forward to seeing a replay of that drop throw, Brad. Really was clean.
Stop.
Well, it's interesting, as you say, Josh. You know, we know what to expect from Tricomitis, but he's good enough at it that it doesn't matter. He can telegraph those throws all he wants, but you know, he's got the technique and he's got the power, and thus far it's been enough to keep a solid level of control over Mark Kinsella. What does Kinsella, as we take a look first back at some of the action from the second round, what's Kinsella going to have to do differently?
Kinsella's going to have to try and keep this standing, keep the range. He needs to pump a lot more volume out. Here we see that drop throw, and it's an unusual grip, that underhook. And you see it forced him to stutter a little bit as he turned and dropped. It really had to put a crank on his own shoulder, but really just muscled through it. If Kinsella can keep the range, keep some volume of punches going, and land some damage as Tricomitis comes in, you know, maybe this cardio will start paying dividends. But for my money, he's 2 rounds down now.
And we saw the coaches there just out of your camera shot of Mark Kinsella wildly gesticulating that he needs to use the entire cage floor. He needs to move, stay away from Tricomitis, and of course he's going to have to get these strikes going.
You have to wonder if throwing some kicks is a good idea. I mean, often we don't see kicks thrown when a guy is worried about being taken down, but right now Tricomitis is taking him down. Not quite at will, but pretty significantly.
And Kinsella again, he looked to try and take the centre of the cage to fire those strikes off, and again Tricomitis has been able to turn him into the fence and get a grip of his body.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Tricomitis never goes for inside head position here. He goes for a bit more of a clinch. You can see him trying to load up and turn to the left. All his throws have come off that side of the body. Dropping for a double though, big pickup.
Big slam there from Tricomitis.
Yeah.
And if you can hear us, I'll let you off the fireman's carry, Andreas, if you give us a few more of those instead.
I mean, Tricomitis tried to really bury his shoulder through the sternum of Kinsella as he dropped him. Did a good job of managing to flip over. Here we go, he's got a good body lock again. It was a really nice switch of sides from Tricomitis to maintain that side control position.
Mark Kinsella looking to create a little bit of space there to perhaps get that right knee up to the face of Tricomitis.
See that right hand on the neck, that is going to keep the clinch safe, but he's got to throw in volume.
Punches on the break there, does Kinsella. So perhaps just looking a little bit frustrated with himself.
Yeah, he's got to throw in volume and he's got to stop this initial clinch, or he's got to immediately get that frame going, get some knees going. He can't afford these dead periods against the cage. There's the frame. Let's see a big right knee up into the... there we go. It's those kind of short inside shots that he's got to make Tricomitis pay for when the pace slows in these clinches.
And if there was ever a time for Mark Kinsella to put his foot on the gas, it's now. 3 minutes separating him from a defeat on the scorecards here, you'd have to believe at this stage.
I'm very surprised Tricomitis didn't use that body lock a bit more, but
he's been able to stick to Kinsella like glue though for the majority of the 2.5 rounds that we've seen so far. Can he keep it up for the all-important final 2.5 minutes?
There we go. Again, he's got to go back to work on this frame. Such a strong position. And if there is a scramble and he does block one of Tricomitis' entries, he's got to use it to separate.
Oh, Kinsella throwing a series of elbows and short strikes there. Tricomitis says no thank you. Closes the distance again, and again with a big throw.
I have no idea how he completed that with a single overhook. Unreal. I thought there was so much separation, there was no way he was going to roll through on that.
Pretty special stuff there from Tricomitis.
I mean, it's actually a credit to how strong Tricomitis' no-gi grips are and his MMA grips. You know, the clinch strength he must have on a sweaty single overhook to roll someone through like that is quite impressive.
Very solid performance from Tricomitis. He's also been putting a lot of training time in at the Hammer Gym here in Liverpool. A camp that really has exploded over the past 5-6 years and produced a number of great amateur and professional fighters, some of whom we'll be seeing here tonight. Mick Stanton coming up in just a few moments' time on our Sport Bible prelim stream.
You know, it's also very hard to overestimate how important someone with the childhood competition of Tricomitis is. You know, when you competed that much on a high-level stage, Youth Olympics at age 16, you know, and a lot of national titles around that age as well, competing just becomes part of what you're doing, and it does make the anxiety of going for big throws and worrying about getting stuffed just that much easier to deal with, because he just knows what to expect.
Let go of that, make sure you don't grab that fence.
Kinsella looking to power forward here. About 35 seconds separating him from a defeat on the scorecards. He's going to have to do something absolutely massive to change the tide here, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a much better round for him, but he just hasn't been able to get anything going with any great consistency. It's been sporadic. Here, it's a good knee, and then he gets shut down. The pace gets slowed down again. it's really been hard for him to get any kind of fluidity going with his offense, and I think that's really what's cost him this fight.
Kinsella still fighting for everything he's worth, but as has been the case in this fight, it's just another shutdown, another takedown from Tricomitis.
Stop.
Yeah, that little Ouchi on the inside worked for him a couple of times, and Tricomitis really...
And a clearly dejected Mark Kinsella collecting his thoughts as Tricomitis mounts the cage and roars with pride, as well he might. A solid 3 rounds to open his account here at Cage Warriors, and Tricomitis absolutely ecstatic there.
He certainly seems very happy, doesn't he? That was a good performance, very solid, all-around grappling game. You know, he's going to have to work on dealing with the strikes, dealing with the cardio as well, because perhaps a few holds, but, you know, can't take anything away from him. He shut down Mark Kinsella fairly effectively there.
Well, that'll be a 3rd professional victory, you would have to think, for Tricomitis. Let's take a look at some of the action from that 3rd round, starting with this huge takedown, Josh.
Yeah, really drove the shoulder through well, vaulted to the other side very nicely. Here was the huge throw, and you see how the grip slips off and he rolls through that single overhook. Really just brute strength combined with years of technique to know that you can't stop halfway. You know, once you commit, you go through. Same thing with striking. You know, you're going to throw a 3-punch combination, you throw that combination. You know the other guy's going to throw back. Same thing here. He knows the other guy's going to base a block, but you just keep going. And that kind of commitment is what really got him a lot of those takedowns in this match.
While judges tallying their scorecards on the outside, as Andreas Tricomitis continues to celebrate with his corner and teammates. And our MC, Andy Friedlander, has the judge's decision. We'll throw it to him in the cage to make it official.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. The judges score this contest 29-28 Kinsella, 29-28 Tricomitis, and 30-27 for the winner by split decision, Andreas Tricomitis.
Andreas Tricomitis taking what turned out to be a split decision on the scorecards. Kinsella did get some solid strikes in that last round and a number in the second. Personally, I thought the periods of control for Tricomitis took all 3 rounds for him, but there's a reason I'm sat out here and our 3 judges are